How are you, my pal?
Well, I'm doing well, thank you.
I mean, you look
And
ruggedly handsome today.
Don't you go?
I'm having trouble hearing. I've got hearing aids, so they don't really work, but
Turn them up.
I've got them.
I said you look ruggedly handsome today.
Doesn't he?
That's because I brushed my hair a minute ago.
Well, Jack, I've been looking forward to speaking with you, my pal. I wish I could meet you in person, but we're gonna just have to settle for Zoom today. And
It's
where are
great, great
yeah,
to
where
be
are
with
you right
you.
now? Are you at home?
I'm almost at home. I'm at my neighbor's house, which is more cozy and comfortable than my own place.
And where in the world is that? Are you in California?
I'm somewhere off the coast of California.
Fantastic. Wow. Well, listen, I've been waiting to chat with you, my pal. I'm a really big fan of your music and your writing. And you know, I've been listening to you all week and I have a lot of questions for you. And our first question is, what is it like to sing songs in the 21st century that are over 100 years old?
What was that? What is it like to
Sing songs from
songs?
over 100 years ago?
Um, I'm only 91, so I don't know about 100 years ago. I can.
Let me turn this up here a little bit.
I got 2 memory cells left. I can remember everything that happened 50 years ago, 70 years ago. But 7 minutes ago, I can't remember what I was doing or where I was, what I do with my keys.
Well, you sing so many songs that are from, for instance, the 1920s, 1930s, 1940s. These are songs that still resonate today, 100 years ago, from 100 years later. What is it like to sing those songs now in the 21st century?
Well, it feels good to refresh old songs that I haven't sung in 5 or 10 years. Some of those great old songs that I never quit singing or stopped singing are getting a little bit rusty. It's good to give them a rest sometimes, let them rest for 5 or 10 years. Like one, I frequently get requests for something that I used to enjoy doing very, very much. It was a song by Tim Hardin called If I Were a Carpenter.
I love your version of that song, Jack. You do the best version of that song.
Well, thank you very much. I'm pleased to hear you say it because I can't even do it anymore. It's difficult. It's not something that I can just do when people ask for it. They ask for it repeatedly because they heard it on a record, maybe even recently. But nobody's heard me do it live recently because I feel unable to do it. I wore it out. It's rusty or it's got broken elbow joints. It's falling apart.
What are some of the songs that you do now that are sort of your that still feel good to sing today?
I like to sing a Bob Dylan song called "I'll Be Your Baby Tonight."
Oh, I love that. I love that song.
It's still very fresh.
Yeah.
And I've been doing it a lot lately, and I'm still not getting tired of it. I hope to be able to continue doing it for maybe another few months. But I love it so much that I put a lot into it, and it takes a lot out of me. It puts a lot in me and takes a lot out of me. But it's one of the real crowd pleaser.
I love that song, and I love the way you do it. Do you still perform songs by your old pal Woody Guthrie when you perform on stage?
Yes, I do. Woody was one of my first heroes in the music world, and still is.
Now, he's one of my heroes as well, as are you. And we have a lot of people that watch this show who were born in the 21st century, okay? And they may not know Woody Guthrie. Why is it important for people, young people, to listen to Woody Guthrie's music now?
Well, the most fresh reason I can think of is to do with what's happening in the world today and what's happening in America today, because Woody was very much a piece of America, born in 1912 and grew up during that Great Depression. I was born in 1931 at the very height of the Depression, but I wasn't in it to speak of. Fortunate enough, my parents had a house, and they were fairly comfortable, although a lot of people were not.
Sure.
And I was dimly aware of it when we went out of the house. But that was the Great Depression. And now we have a not so great depression coming
Right.
on.
So, I mean, these are some of these songs that you've been playing for 60, 70 years. They feel more resonant today, in a way. When I hear a lot of those Woody Guthrie songs and a lot of the songs that you did on your last record, you did a record called A Stranger Here. That was a lot of great old blues songs by Mississippi John Hurt, Blind Willie Johnson. Those songs still resonate today. How did you pick those songs for that record?
I just like them. I hear them. I like them, and whatever strikes me. I don't always try to put it into words as far as framing the reason why I like it. If I like it, it's an emotional happening that comes over me, and I'll feel I'm responding to it automatically without thinking about it. And it would take some more. It would take a period of thought and analyzing, which doesn't always take place, to discover what it is, the reason why I happen to like a song.
Sure.
Hits me right. I like it.
Like you do my favorite version I've ever heard of this Blind Willie Johnson song. It's called Soul of a Man. Soul of a Man. You do the best version of that song. And it strikes me that was already a very old song. You know, it's from before you were born.
Yeah.
How did you encounter music like Blind Willie Johnson growing up in Brooklyn?
It wasn't in Brooklyn. I had to get out of Brooklyn before I could discover America. And as Cristoforo Colombo had to get out of Brooklyn before he could discover America.
Sure.
Well, I might not have appreciated Woody Guthrie if I had stayed in New York, although Woody was living in New York himself when I found it. But I heard about him years before I ever heard his voice on the radio. An old sailmaker from Denmark who had sailed around Cape Horn 12 times in square riggers working as a sailmaker. Making the sails and sending them on deck and sending them up aloft in the very ship that he was working in as a sailmaker. Those sails were to drive the ship he was in. He later retired from the sea and got a little shop on Outer Flatbush Avenue in Brooklyn. He was making yacht sails and awnings and marine canvas work named Erickson. And I think it was Mr. Erickson that first mentioned the name Woody Guthrie to me.
Wow.
He was a folk singer and a man of the people.
Hmm. Did you listen to the Grand Ole Opry on the radio? Did you get that in New York?
That quite a bit. When they had, well, I was listening to the Grand Ole Opry before Hank Williams was on there.
Sure. Now, who would have been on there? Would it have been maybe Gene Autry or Hank Snow, that kind of music?
Well, they had Uncle Dave Macon, and they had a fellow who did Anytime, Eddie Arnold.
Eddie Arnold. Wow.
Eddie Arnold was one of the more popular stars of the Grand Ole Opry. And of course, they had Minnie Pearl.
Oh, she was fantastic.
with the price tag hanging down on the brim of her hat.
Uh-huh. Jack, was there anything about growing up in Brooklyn, was it a Jewish family that you grew up in? Was there anything about it that, you do feel became part of your music and your performances, or did you have to sort of reject your upbringing to become a performer?
Well, when I was 9 years old, my parents brought me to see the rodeo in Madison Square Garden.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm afraid they lived to regret that day. I was deeply moved by the grace and excitement and bravery and humor that was demonstrated by those cowboys from way out west.
Mm-hmm.
And the announcer had a wonderful way of bringing the reality forth with his humor. I remember one little joke especially that profoundly moved me was, he said, the only way you can kill a cowboy is to cut off his head and hide it someplace where he can't find it.
And had you been on a horse before at that point?
Hardly, and it was with an English saddle, of course. I hadn't ever been herding cattle or anything, although my cousins in Connecticut raised cattle. And my grandpa raised some cows. In fact, the first time I was chased by a bull, it was Grandpa's bull that run me and Daddy out of the pasture in Connecticut.
Wow. Wow. I want to ask you, Jack, about some of your old pals, some of my favorite musicians that you've crossed paths with. I am a Leadbelly fanatic. He, I think, was one of the great musicians of the 20th century. Did you
Absolutely
cross paths?
right.
Did you cross paths with Leadbelly?
I was in a radio program where he was performing, and I was one of about 8 or 9 people in the audience. And the performers were Leadbelly, Woody Guthrie, and Oscar Brand was the MC of the program. It was a little radio show in WNYC. Didn't get to meet Woody because he disappeared immediately after the show ended.
Mm-hmm.
But as Leadbelly was putting his 12-string guitar away in the case, and I was about 16 years old, and I had just started playing guitar only a few months before. And I was 18, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was before I met Woody. And Leadbelly was very sick.
Mm-hmm.
He passed away with Lou Gehrig's disease only a few months after. But he could play. He could still play. And as he was putting his guitar in the case, I, as an inquisitive young teenager and wannabe guitar picker, I found myself standing very close behind him, observing as he was putting the guitar in the case. And we had a conversation. I could remember the whole conversation verbatim. As he was putting the guitar in the case, and I was a little too close, and I must have bumped his elbow.
Uh-huh.
And I said, "Oops," and Leadbelly said, "Excuse me." Or maybe Leadbelly said, "Oops," and I said, "Excuse me." I'm not sure, but that was the entire conversation.
Wow. Well, you rubbed elbows with Leadbelly.
Yeah, and he died soon afterward, not from the elbow injury.
Wow. And Jack, you worked with, I've heard recordings of you working with Sonny Terry, who I think was like the greatest harmonica player that ever played. What was he like?
I think so too. And it was my pleasure to visit Sonny at his home up in Harlem. And one time I got to drive Sonny and Brownie and a bass player whose name shall come back in a minute. I got these two memory cells working.
We're hitting both those memory cells today.
I drove them in my Model A to a house party somewhere in Brooklyn. And we were up all night, and there was whiskey and there was food. And it was just, I was thrilled to be there. I was the only white boy for about 5 miles around.
Sure.
And I remember Brownie took me next door to knock on the door of some old friend of his. And as we were waiting, he was knocking on the door. And as we waited for the door to open, Brownie said to me, "You know, I've got a certain guitar sound. It goes ka-chuk, ka-chuk."
Mhm.
He says, "Pretty soon the whole world's going to be ka-chukin." I said, "Right." And I remember people in the neighborhood coming over to the house, and they heard that Sonny Terry was there. But some of them didn't get the name right, because I remember somebody proudly introducing Sonny to his cousin or his brother. And he says, "This is Sonny Boy Williamson."
Oh, wrong Sonny, wrong Sonny.
The wrong Sonny. But, you know, stuff like that happens all the time.
Wow. Well, I think you really have carried on a tradition of Leadbelly, people like Leadbelly and Sonny Terry and Brownie McGee all these years, because, you know, your music and your performances, not only, you know, are they, you know, historical and preserving something important, but they're very entertaining. And sometimes people forget that it's entertainment too. And Leadbelly, he could sing any song, any type of song. He could make you laugh. He could make you cry. He could make you think. He could make you dance. And I've always admired that about you, Jack. Your shows, they go left, they go right, they go up, they go down. You never know what century the song's going to come from, you know?
I remember one of Leadbelly's introductions to a song, and I know the introduction, I hardly can remember anything about the song, but the introduction sent me for a loop. He said, "Them horses was a walking and them 45s was a talking, and they burned down that gentleman's house with their very best regards."
Wow. Wow, that's heavy.
That's some language.
Woo. Wow. Well, I want to ask you, Jack, about your time in England when you first went to England. What was happening in England? What that wasn't happening in the United States? Why do you think you were able to sort of resonate with people in the 1950s first in England rather than in the United States?
Well, I think, and this just sprang into my head, it may not mean anything, but I think that it was a good thing for England and a good thing for me that uh, Columbus did not discover England. I discovered England.
You sure did. You sure did. And everybody from Mick Jagger to Rod Stewart, you know, everybody from the folkies to the rock and rollers, they all heard you sing in the 50s. It was really a seminal moment for the development of music in not just England, but probably all of Europe.
I saw it happening, I heard it happening, I felt it happening, but I didn't have time to think about it. I was just enjoying the feeling. It was a good feeling. It was, they were alive and I was alive and we were grooving together. First time I sang This Land Is Your Land, I was embarrassed because unlike Pete Seeger, I don't ask people to join in with me. Like, you take the bass, you take the high part, let's all get together and sing these words. I don't do that. I just telling the story because I'm a storyteller. And I don't think about being a musician. I don't worry about being a musician, but I'm an entertainer. That's my job.
You sure are.
Music comes along with it. It's part of the fuel. And it's part of the lubrication, you know, it's the gasoline and it's the oil. But it's got to be from the heart.
Sure.
And so I was singing that song, This Land Is Your Land. And of course, I'm singing about America, and I was from America and I'm in their country. And they started singing along with me. They just naturally started singing along with me and singing This Land Is Your Land, This Land Is My Land. And I thought, wait a minute, that's a little bit strange, ain't it? I was
Yeah, we fought a war over that, I
trying
think.
to start them into some kind of a thing, and it just sort of happened that way. They were just enjoying the moment, and they probably didn't even think about the quizzicality of it.
Sure. Jack, I want to ask you about one of my favorite performers, Odetta. I think she was just a beautiful lady, a beautiful performer, just an amazing person. Tell me a little bit about working and spending time with Odetta.
Well, I met Odetta when I was in Los Angeles. I'd gone out there with Woody in 1954. He'd bought some land in Topanga Canyon, and we were gonna kind of hang out there for a while. And it was not far from his old friend Will Gear, who had a theater there in Topanga Canyon. And so I ended up singing all summer long at the theater. And Will was doing these plays, and I even tried my hand at acting a little bit, some of those plays. And Odetta would come to the shows, and I met Odetta. I think she was about 20 years old, and I was about 23. She lived somewhere in Hollywood. I remember I purchased a Model A Ford from a farmer down in Santa Ana. It cost $15. The engine was all rusted shut, and it took me 10 days to get the motor running. And I discovered there was a man that lived in Hollywood right on Sunset Boulevard. He had about 5 Model A Fords, and a whole gang of other Model A owners would congregate at his house. and he lived right across the street from Odetta.
Wow.
So I'd go over there and hang out with the Model A people and learn all I could about how to tune the Model A and how to keep it running and how to adjust the brakes and all that stuff. They had mechanical brakes, not hydraulic brakes.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'd go across the street and knock on the door. And I got to telling Odetta long-winded stories about the Model A Ford. The first time I arrived there, Odetta's mother greeted me at the door. She told me that Odetta was in the bathtub and I could wait in the living room. So I sat in the living room couch and waited. It seemed like I was waiting there for almost an hour. I could hear her singing and splashing down the hall. And I got tired of waiting, so I walked on down the hallway. The door was closed, and I started telling Odetta the long-winded story about my Model A Ford. And she eventually finished bathing and got dressed and came out, and we had some coffee and told stories. About a week later, I had some more Model A work to do, and I came across the street, knocked on the door, knock, knock. I saw Odetta's mother's eye peeking out through the peephole.
Uh-huh.
She opened the door a crack, and I heard her say, "Odetta, Ramblin' Jack is here." So I had a new name.
Oh man. It's stuck, baby. It's stuck. I could listen to you ramble all day, Jack. I could talk to you all day. And tell the people at home, like, will we get to see some Jack Elliott shows over the next year? Are you performing these days?
Well, I'm going to be doing a show in Nashville with Todd Snyder.
Yep. He's a buddy of mine. He's a very talented guy.
That's
Yeah.
September 24th.
That's on September 24th. And then on October 8th, I'll be performing in a tribute to John Prine.
Oh man. Fantastic. One of my favorite songwriters. One of my favorite songwriters that ever lived.
I had a lot of fun touring with John.
Do you know what song you're going to be singing of John's?
I'll probably do got one about paradise.
Oh,
I used to sing with John.
Daddy, won't you take me down to Muhlenberg County?
That's the one. That's the one.
Make you cry.
What a great song. I can't wait to see you do that. Will you and Todd be doing any Jerry Jeff songs that night?
I have no idea. We haven't discussed it.
Because I know Todd was a real good buddy of Jerry Jeff's, as were you. And I love his songs. To me, he's a protege of yours. He was a protege of yours.
Well, I was very fond of Jerry Jeff. We had some good times together.
Yeah.
We really did.
Well, I am just absolutely thrilled that we're going to get to see you perform. I am thrilled that I get to see your absolutely handsome face today.
Very nice to see you too.
I hope that we get another
Right.
Jack Elliott record. I hope we get another Jack Elliott record. That would be great.
I think there might be one left that we haven't come out with yet.
Well, let me tell you why you need to do another record. Your last two records were two of your best records you ever did.
Yep.
Your last two records were two of the best
Thank you.
that you ever did.
Oh, okay.
And I want more. We need more.
Well, I think you're going to have to get them, and I'm going to have to dig down and put them out.
Please do. And Jack, listen, I could talk to you all day, but just take care of yourself. Keep punching, my pal. And when I'm out there on the West Coast, I'm going to come see you, and we'll have a cup of coffee together.
Yes, sir. Thank you. It's been a pleasure. Enjoyed meeting you.
Okay, thank you so much. Take care. And thank you, Venta, for helping us set this up.
Oh, you're very welcome. And Jack's going to be performing in Mill Valley at the Sweetwater on November 30th also.
Oh, fantastic.
With-
Well,
with
Bobby
Bob
Weir.
Weir. With Bob Weir, possibly another surprise big star with him too.
I love that song you did with Bobby Weir on his album where you were yodeling on his song.
I think that was the Mule Skinner Blues.
Yeah. I mean, you are now the preeminent yodeler probably in all of America.
Well, I might be the pre-yodeling amateur. I don't know about preeminent yodeler, but yodeling is getting a little bit. I need to get up in the mountains more.
We need to get you up into the Alps.
Hanging out at sea level, you know.
Yeah.
Adam, did you catch the Greek Theater post-pandemic reopening a year ago, July, with Jack? With
Well,
the Greek Theater in Berkeley with Bob Weir and the Wolf Brothers. It was absolutely astounding. And he played standing up for the first time in many years. It was great.
I watched some videos of it because I'm in Philadelphia.
Uh-huh.
But Venta, this all proves my point that Jack is getting better and better.
Yep.
Okay, so keep it up, my pal. Keep it
I
up.
think maybe one of the main reasons why I wanted to play guitar and also wanted to be a cowboy is because you can do it sitting down.
That's a good gig. That's a good gig. All right, Jack, listen, take care of yourself, and we're going to talk again real soon, okay?
Thanks a lot for calling, Adam.
All
You're
right.
looking
care.
good, sir.
Thank you, Jack. Thank you, Venta.